Hello, world of sports. Welcome to the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. For anyone that is a friend of mine, I am Derek Larger. That is my friend Chase Steffes. And guys, I know that some of you who have seen this channel know that I have been talking about wanting to do a different sports podcast. And anyone that knows me, I am the co-host of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. And thank you again for coming into this channel. But we're going to talk mainly about a bunch of different sports stories. We're going to focus mainly on the NFL, college football, things like that. But we'll also venture out into other sports and things of that nature, cover news from a bunch of different platforms. But guys, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for clicking on this video. Chase, my guy, you've been a friend of mine for 7 years now. A lot of people that are on this channel already have recognized me, but we don't know a lot about you. Go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, Derek and I met back in college at Bowling Green State University, and we had, a little rough patch to start off with, but then our friendship kind of grew as we went on. We ended up being roommates together and then became very close friends with me and our other friend, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had large arguments about sports and different sports debates, including a lot about football and baseball in the sports world. And we thought it would be in our best interest to try to create a sports podcast together, bringing the best of our knowledge and combining it along with some hot takes, some different perspectives on outlook of sports and how they go, because a lot of people, want to look at what they see in front of them rather than looking in depth at everything and bringing all the facts. That's what we're here for. We are here to do it. He has been one of my groomsmen at my wedding, and I'm proud to call him a friend of mine. But we are here to bring information to you guys and to expand the world of sports to those of you that don't know what is going on the surface. That is why we are here for more in-depth analysis.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Well, I thought it was very customary for us to begin our first episode on this channel together. And like you said, our friend Josh, he's planning on joining us on this experience as well. He's just working today, so we figured we would get a little bit of this going ourselves. But our first story, I felt it was important we kind of talk about probably one of the only few relevant things going on in the NFL world right now, and that is the Deshaun Watson case. So right now, currently, Deshaun Watson is on a judicial trial for the NFL in regards to whether or not there will be a punishment for him moving forward. So we know, Chase, that he has reached a civil suit with 20 of the 24 women who have accused him of sexual assault in some way. So basically, most of the part from a legal standpoint, Deshaun Watson is almost completely taken care of. So there's almost not a legal issue to worry about. But of course, just because you may be out of legal trouble does not mean that the NFL cannot get you in its own way in some kind of punishment. So before we get too in depth on what's going on with it, what's your thoughts on this potential suspension looming for Deshaun Watson?
So as Derek elaborated there, he's asking me specifically because I am a Browns fan.
Yes.
I have been my whole life. He's been a Colts fan his whole life. And the thing is, through thick and thin, I've rooted for my team no matter what what goes on. And just, I don't know, with whether or not he or what your opinion is on Deshaun Watson. The legal system is you are innocent until proven guilty. That's my thought process behind this. And I think that until there is proof and actual physical evidence, whether it be via text, emails, anything like that, Deshaun Watson is innocent. Now, if he has been proven guilty, then he should get a full punishment and get what's coming to him. But the interesting fact is that Deshaun Watson is in a weird position right now because with what is going on, yes, he did settle 20 of the 24 lawsuits, but he has the collective bargaining agreement on his side. And with the most recent CBA that they have a third party judiciary person that is in charge of handling all suspensions due to the conduct policy. So Roger Goodell has no control over how long he gets suspended. It now goes to the third party system, for those of you that did not know that. Also, a part of the CBA is that with the Robert Kraft incident with the prostitutes that he had solicited sex from, and the not John Schneider, the Snyder. What's
Snyder
his
for
name?
the you talking about for the Commanders?
Yes, the owner. With what he's had going on with the issue, and they've had no punishment whatsoever. Yes, granted they are owners, but they could still have some form of punishment from the league via not being in charge of the team for a certain amount of weeks, losing draft picks, whatever it may be. They could also receive criminal punishment for what they have done, and they have not yet. And the CBA is on Watson's side for a situation like this. So it's going to be tricky. I see him getting suspended for a year. I would not be surprised if it's a 10-game suspension, but I see a year minimum. And then I see him coming back next year being, healthy, being stronger than ever, being able to play and finish out his career with Cleveland if he wants to. And, a lot of people are looking at this as the Browns are doomed for what they have. It's not really. They've got a roster to win now. They've got two great running backs. They've got a great head coach. Jacoby Brissett is a capable quarterback to keep them in games and, help them win. It's not like he is not,
he's not going to win you games, but he's not going to lose you games either. So,
right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's not going to lose you the games and plus, he's had the best roster that he's had since he's been on different teams. When he was with the Colts, he did not have like the high caliber weapons. He did not have Jonathan Taylor at that time, and he did not have the top defense that they have now. When he was with the Dolphins, they had a great defense, but they did not have a great offense. They did not have running backs. They did not have the offensive line. When he was with New England, still didn't have the weapons. They had a great defense, had a good O-line, just did not have the running backs that we have. They did not have the weapons that we have. We've got the best team put in place for Jacoby Brissett to actually succeed, and I think that he will win us some games. I predict us having a record of 9-8 at minimum.
And so, I mean, since we're on the topic, you were mentioning about, like other people, having an issue with Deshaun Watson and getting punishment. We're talking about like a bunch of different people potentially getting punishments out of the way. Before we get too much more in depth on the punishment for Deshaun, let's kind of backtrack here for a second, because I think what's getting lost in all of this, Chase, is the fact that we have proof that the Texans actually enabled Deshaun Watson's behavior by supplying a facility for him to have these massages for him to have. There's supposedly 7 of these women that have filed a lawsuit against him were people who were invited to this facility to give him those massages. And they knew what was going on. Now, whether or not they knew he was in a sexual assault ring, that's going to be ultimately what it comes down to. Is if we find out that the Texans knew about Deshaun Watson and about what he was doing, and the fact that they can prove that he was actually doing something, do you think the Texans should be given punishment for this as well, for enabling this?
Yeah, I mean, the Texans are a new franchise that came into the league in 2002, formerly as the Houston Oilers. They haven't really had much success in the league until they got Deshaun Watson. And I think that, with the whole way that they handled everything, if they would have stopped, in his tracks right off the bat, Watson probably wouldn't be in the situation that he is now. But I do think that they should receive some form of punishment via losing a few first-round picks, suspending them from the playoffs if they make it, whatever it may be, in whatever way, shape, or form. the Texans should receive the punishment that is coming to him, because enabling this behavior is not tolerated in the NFL. Now, backtracking to the Deshaun Watson thing, everybody wants to claim that what he did is sick and wrong and everything. And like we were talking about, you need proof in order to have him be indicted criminally. And he was found not guilty by not one or two, but three grand juries and former lawyers.
Do you think that the paying off of a lot of these women, do you think that kind of puts a little bit of a stamp into the argument though? Because Watson's been saying all along that, I'm innocent and I'm going to prove my innocence to these people, but yet he's still paying undisclosed settlements to a lot of these women. Like, I get it. That sometimes is a part of that's part of the legal system. People just want to get this done and out of the way. And, you and I have had these conversations about these women, wanting to go after the money a little bit sometimes, but, like it doesn't really help his argument that they're giving away money to these women when you're saying the whole time that you're innocent.
Well, I mean, you could look at either aspect of it. I still think that you could still be innocent and still pay off these women and everything. It still doesn't prove that you're guilty. What it proves is that he's wanting to get this stuff done and over with so he can, move on and play football. But like, if if anything, this further proves that it was just a money situation, that these women were out for money. If anything, that's what that proves, because originally it came out that he offered each of them $100,000 and they turned it down. Well, if, rewind back to 2019, none of this stuff started coming out until the end of 2019 when he signed that big contract with the Houston Texans to make him the second highest paid quarterback in the league at that time. And that's when all these lawsuits started coming out, when, all of these messages and stuff and rumors started being spread around that, he was SAing people. Well, now that he's, become the second highest paid quarterback in the league with the Browns, we've had a couple more lawsuits getting filed. But like this, it also shows you now that out of 24 out of the 20 people accepted money from him, and it's a non-disclosed amount, which means it could be millions for all we know. This just goes to further the argument that these women were out for money rather than out for justice. And the four that are still not accepting the money, those are probably ones that are actually out to make things right if there was anything that happened. So you could look at both ends of the spectrum here, whether or not he is guilty still guilty because he paid him off, or whether or not these women were out for money. Frankly, I think everybody in the national media is like leaning more towards these women were out for money than they were, out for justice, because of the non-disclosure agreement and on the amount of money that they accepted. Not only that, like, everybody wants to claim that, these women really aren't lying. Well, then obviously they didn't watch the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. Everybody believed that Amber Heard was correct and Johnny Depp was abusing her, until all of this information came out that, you had the proof of the video footage of the recording of her yelling at Johnny and her like talking bad about him. And then like all these pictures and proof that she abused him. Everybody started believing him rather than her. So it's kind of like, you could say these women don't lie, but, obviously go back and watch that trial and you'll see otherwise.
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you and I aren't the legal justice system. I mean, ultimately, we have to go with what we see. And, at the end of the day, I'm still not even sure of what's going on. I mean, we've seen women do bad things before, but then again, it's easy to, since there's not any evidence really to back anything up, it's kind of hard to say that Deshaun didn't do any of this because of just how many people there actually were. But nevertheless, I mean, at the end of the day, the legal side of things is cleaning up for him. But when it comes to the NFL personal conduct policy, it's a very tricky thing here because by legal definition of what's in the CBA and what's in this is that the personal conduct policy for the NFL specifically states that everyone who is a part of the league must refrain from conduct detrimental to the integrity of and public confidence in the NFL. Now, the funny thing is like that definition is very, very vague, because when you're talking about public confidence, the problem is the public confidence, the public is saying, oh, Deshaun Watson did this. Like, the majority of the public is saying, oh yeah, we know Deshaun Watson did this. Even if the legal side of things says no, that most people assume Deshaun Watson is guilty. And so that is hurting public confidence in the NFL. So that could be him ruining the conduct policy of the NFL, but also at the same time, conduct detrimental to the integrity of the NFL. Again, if he didn't do anything legally, then you can't get him for that either. So you're in a weird situation here. And this is why you have a trial now from the NFL and Watson's legal team saying, Watson's legal team is saying we shouldn't get anything at all, because legally it's being said he's not done anything wrong. Like, unless there's some actual proof that sexual assault was happened by towards these women, then you can't say anything about him being detrimental to the NFL just because the public thinks he is. But at the same time, the NFL is now pushing for an indefinite suspension, which could mean forever until they figure out what is actually going on here.
Now, that is a crazy thing about the indefinite part, because I was reading more in depth on the CBA that they have. There's two things that people need to focus on with the CBA. Is one, yes, if this lawyer or representative for the NFL that is looking at the Watson case, trying to come up with the suspension, if it is like, let's say 8 games or 10 games and he's still able to play, Roger Goodell cannot step in and say he's suspended for longer, because that just defeats the whole purpose of the CBA, because the purpose of the CBA was so Roger Goodell doesn't handle these punishments anymore. It's so a third-party company handles this. And if you're going back on your word of the agreement that you signed yourself saying that you would not get involved, and now he's getting involved, there could be a massive lawsuit with not just Watson, but the entire NFL, because he went back on the CBA. That's one thing. And the second thing is, in the CBA, it clearly states that a player cannot be suspended indefinitely for off-the-field issues or on-the-field issues. Okay? So an indefinite suspension, he can also fight that too and try to appeal his suspension due to the indefinite part, because people don't realize indefinite means forever. Indefinite doesn't mean temporarily. It means forever. Okay? That's the clear picture here. It's the same thing that happened with Myles Garrett a few years ago. A player cannot be suspended indefinitely for on the field or off the field issues. That is exactly why he should have sued the NFL and fought to get a less fewer game suspension, and why Watson might have a chance to come out of here either scot-free or with 8 games minimum.
Well, and we saw what happened with Zeke like several years ago, right? When, his girlfriend at the time stated that, he assaulted her in the vehicle. And when it came to the NFL's investigation, the lead investigator of the NFL specifically stated to Roger Goodell that I don't think he did this. I don't believe the woman. I believe that he didn't actually physically assault her, especially since there were witnesses there that corroborated that, he never actually hit her. And yet Roger Goodell suspended him for 6 games anyway, right? Just because, he had the power to do that. So, you're talking about the CBA and Roger Goodell not being able to be the enforcer on that decision anymore. And it's for exact reasons like that. Now, when we're talking about the actual length of this suspension, with the disciplinary decision that the NFL works right now, violations involving assault, battery, domestic violence, or sexual assault will result in a baseline 6-game suspension without pay. Now, there's more aggravating factors that go into that, but based on what we know, that stuff didn't happen with Watson. But then it says, a second offense of this will result in banishment from the NFL. Now, what do they define as a second offense? I mean, is it just the first time you're caught doing it, or is it like how many people state that you did it? I don't know the exact legal terms of that, but there's people that are saying, it's a very tricky slope. You don't know here. We're talking about either a multi-year suspension based on the gravity of just how many women are talking about what happened to them. And then you're also talking about the fact from a fine line term, you're talking about maybe it only being 6 games due to the fact that this is the first time that Watson is being called out for it. I don't know like how the legal terms of that is. I don't know if it's because of how many women are coming out at different times, if that affects it differently. I mean, it could literally go anywhere, Chase, from 6 games to, by legal definition of the rules, him being suspended for the rest of his life. I mean, it really can be. So
It can, yeah. I mean, it is a difficult situation. Looking at this, like, you never know what it could be, because, in the end, you're looking at it like, okay, he has not been charged legally with anything. So that's the fine line there. Not to mention, he has also settled 20 of the 24 lawsuits. So that is another legal obligation right there that has been settled. So by true definition of the CBA, like you said, it could be a minimum of 6 games, or it could be a maximum of the rest of his life. I see a year minimum. I don't see any more than that. But like, people are arguing about the whole Calvin Ridley thing. If Calvin Ridley got suspended for a year, Deshaun Watson should too. Here's the thing. Calvin Ridley was actually charged with a illegal crime of gambling. And the thing is,
it's the morality of it. It's the morality of it. That's the problem here.
It was proven that he actually did it too. For Watson, we don't know if he actually did it. And the thing is, it's, there's no evidence of anything. So like, you can't really say like, oh yeah, Calvin Ridley, but what he did has been frowned upon for a long time. But not only that, like, he's got proof of what he did compared to Watson, where you don't. So yeah.
I thought the whole year suspension for Calvin Ridley was BS anyway. I mean, gambling in some states, yeah, it's not right. I get that. But I just think, he wasn't gambling on games that he was in. He specifically gambled on another specific game that he had no part in whatsoever. I get it. He should have been suspended, but a year I felt was a little dramatic. But you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, you and I have been saying that magic number is probably a year. That's what we're hearing. And, the Browns apparently have already taken measures to prepare for that. He's only going to get paid like $1.5 million this year based off his contract, because of the fact that he may not be playing this year at all. So it'll be very interesting to see how, and it's weird too, because the trial for him is supposed to be done by the end of this week, but we don't know if he's going to actually get his suspension or his punishment this week at all. So it's going to be very interesting. Nevertheless, we're going to obviously keep you guys up to date on that news, and if anything comes out, because obviously, yeah, Watson playing or not playing is going to be very, very influential to the Browns season and, to the NFL season in general. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah. And I'll say one more thing and we'll leave it at this, and then we'll move on. With Deshaun Watson and the way that he is, I do not care if he has not played in a year and a half, everybody. He is still a great quarterback in this league. Like, you can get out of the league and still come back and play at a top tier level that, from what you were. It's like riding a bike. You never forget how to play. And everybody does not realize, like, yes, he did not play in games, but he played in live reps at practice. He participated. He went, up against the number 1 defense. He was getting hit and everything. It's not like he has not gotten hit or he has not played. He has played. He just hasn't played in an official NFL game because he chose not to last year. That's the difference. He can come back. He can still play at a high level, and I believe that wholeheartedly. I'll admit when I'm wrong, but the proof is in the pudding from what we've seen. He came back off of an ACL injury and then came back and had one of the best seasons of his life.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, we'll move on now from that and move to a different segment here. And it's another thing that's been getting a ton of rave this offseason. Tyreek Hill being traded from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Miami Dolphins. Big blockbuster move, but the Dolphins gave up 5 draft picks to go and get Tyreek Hill. So let you know what they really thought of him. And we're now kind of talking about, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, kind of talking about who's going to miss the other the more, what is that? How does that impact the Chiefs and the Dolphins? Obviously Tyreek Hill's been getting a ton of talk about him over the last few months, of him talking about Tua Tagovailoa and about his accuracy, right? He's gone on several podcasts mentioning that Tua, his accuracy is just as good, if not better, than Patrick Mahomes. He said a few other statements, even stated that he's received death threats from people, even attempting to compare Tua and Patrick Mahomes. Now, I mean, for anyone that's sending death threats to a person that's sticking up for their teammate, you need serious help. I hope that you get it. And if you don't, you go to jail. But nevertheless, when we're talking about, this situation, I mean, Chase, what do you mock all this up to? Because, do you really think Tyreek is believing that, or do you think he's really just standing up for his quarterback?
I really think that he's just, saying what everybody wants him to say. I mean, he's on a different team. He's on a team that, he took the money to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, they gave him the best, offer. But the thing is, like, he's just sticking up for them because, like, what is he supposed to say? Like, he's on a team that he's his star quarterback is completely different. Completely different organization. Do you want him to sit there and say, like, yeah, Tua is terrible. He's got a terrible arm. He's got terrible accuracy. Mahomes is better. Like, how does that boost the morale of the organization, the morale of the team, and how does that help the confidence between the relationship of quarterback and wide receiver? Of course, he's lying. Any right-minded football fan would know that he's lying, but the fact that he's just saying that to help boost the morale of the locker room, his teammates, and help build a relationship with him. And if he truly thinks that Tua is more accurate or a better, like, passer than Mahomes, I want to know if Tyreek Hill should be drug tested for what he's saying.
I mean, he's down in Miami. You have no idea what they do down in Miami, but I mean,
Like,
it is
I don't know
funny
if it should
because
be real or not.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can get behind the accuracy standpoint. I mean, the accuracy changes a lot over the span of a year. And when it comes to, certain quarterbacks, I mean, we all know Patrick Mahomes is like the golden boy. We know Patrick Mahomes is elite. I mean, is there times when Patrick Mahomes just doesn't make good throws? Of course there is. There's a bunch of times where he misses throws. And, I mean, Tua can have
times where Tom Brady doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, every quarterback misses some throws. And, I mean, if Tyreek's talking about short accuracy, then yeah, I mean, Tua's got a good arm. It's not like he doesn't. But I mean, I think everyone goes back and they talk about the video that the Miami Dolphins Twitter page put up on social media about Tua underthrowing Tyreek Hill at that 50-yard mark, where Tyreek was basically just standing there waiting for that throw to get to him. I mean, everyone's kind of just been roasting the Dolphins for even posting it. And now we're adding on to the argument of why, Tyreek Hill is talking about these sorts of things. But you're right. At the end of the day, like, I mean, I don't know why anyone's surprised by this. I think everyone just wants NFL players to be truthful in the statements that they say, when it's like, listen, it's the same thing in a relationship. Sometimes you can't always be truthful, especially when you're talking about it to other people, and that person is going to find out what you say, because at the end of the day, if you say something that could get under the skin, like you mentioned, the quarterback and the wide receiver, the connection has to be important. It has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, and Tua, who's already kind of been talked about as being halfway out the door already, right? I mean, if you have Tyreek Hill, who you just paid $130 million to come and try to improve this offense, and he's already throwing like subtle shots, even though we all know Patrick Mahomes is better than Tua in just about every way, shape, or form, that still doesn't matter. You still can't come out to the media and say that, because ultimately you have to show a level of inner confidence in your quarterback to be able to do things differently. Because if we're all just saying the truth, then Tua's not going to improve. He's either going to extremely improve or he's just going to fall off a cliff. And the Dolphins right now are banking on the roster that they've built. They've basically bought this offseason to build around Tua, to be able to find out if Tua is the real deal for them. And if your new wide receiver, who's probably who some people argue is a top 5 wide receiver in this league, is saying, oh yeah, I would still take Patrick Mahomes over Tua, then it's just not going to do anything good for your team.
You know, it's crazy what people look at. Like they think that one player is going to be a make or break it for, you know, a guy like Mahomes, because, you know, they like, you've got everybody saying that with the division that did get a lot stronger. I will agree. In the AFC West, it did get a lot stronger, but Mahomes is still the guy in that division leading the way, and so are the Chiefs. Yeah. Like it's not like they've lost a whole, like, yeah, they lost Tyrann Mathieu. So what? They picked up Justin Reed. Justin Reed is not as good, but he's still a solid safety. Good. And, you know, they still have Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman runs as fast as Tyreek Hill, if not maybe just a few seconds.
We're not going there. Tyreek catches everyone on the field, but yes, I agree with you. Hardman is a very fast receiver.
But like the thing is, Tyreek Hill measured in at like a 4.24, and Mecole Hardman measured it here like 40 time measured at a 4.29. So like it's just 0.5 seconds.
Yeah,
off.
They're this close. I mean,
yeah. Like he's still almost as fast as Tyreek Hill. Like they're and like, you know, he's starting to build a better relationship with Patrick Mahomes. Not to mention, you got a more big-bodied wide receiver in Juju. And, you know, I feel like Mahomes can bring the better out of Juju than what Big Ben could have. Not to mention, they also got Sky Moore. Yes, Sky Moore is a rookie, but like, you know, out of all of the rookie wide receivers that went in the second round, I think outside of Christian Watson, Sky Moore was probably the second best one. And, you know, going to the Kansas City Chiefs, being with Andy Reid, it really is a key piece for them. And I think that the Chiefs are still going to be that team to go through in the AFC West. Now, I personally think that the Dolphins screwed up when drafting the quarterbacks. I think that the clear, concisest number 2 quarterback was Justin Herbert in that draft. And I think that the Dolphins should have chose Justin Herbert. Why they chose Tua is beyond me. But you're right. This is a make it or break it year for Tua. They've got all of the pieces around him now. They've got an offensive line that they've upgraded. They've massively upgraded their defense. They fired their head coach, who, in my mind, I don't know why, took a team.
There was friction between the GM and the head coach. There was a lot of it.
And you chose your GM when your head coach had 2 winning seasons, going 9-8, coming back from a 1-7 deficit, beating teams like the Baltimore Ravens and everything, and you fire Brian Flores. That's beyond me. But you bring in a guy in Mike McDaniels who they believe is going to take this offense to the next level and bring the Kyle Shanahan type offense to the Miami Dolphins. This is a make it or break it year for Tua. And, you know, this will be determining if they go with a high class free agent, you know, who is available, or if they go and like trade up in the draft to try to get a guy like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud with this next draft. Either way, I think that people are underestimating how good this Chiefs team actually is. And even looking at the roster, they still got some great weapons to go to. And Andy Reid's going to bring the best out of these weapons, and so will Eric Bieniemy. Like, everybody really doesn't realize how good Eric Bieniemy is as an OC, and how good Patrick Mahomes is as a QB. If they're thinking that he is not going to succeed.
So does that mean you think that Tyreek is going to miss Mahomes more than Mahomes is going to miss Tyreek?
Yes, absolutely. Like we've seen it time and time again when a player is having great success with, a team, a quarterback, a coach, whatever it may be, they are having great success with the team that they were on, and then they go to another team and they end up falling off. I think that Tyreek is going to experience that. Like his first 2 years in Miami, it's going to show that Tua is nowhere near what Patrick Mahomes was, and Mahomes helped make Tyreek to what he is, rather than Tyreek, being as good as what he is. Like I'm not saying that he's not good, but I'm just saying like we've seen it. And guys like Le'Veon Bell leaving the Steelers, going to a different team, he fell off. You've seen it countless times. Julio Jones went from the Falcons to the Titans, fell off.
That
Yeah,
was injuries, though. I don't know if he'd fall off just because of that, but the injuries thing happened.
yeah, that is true, but like the point still stands. Like you've seen it throughout NFL history, players that go on a different team that have had success with their previous ones fall off. Like Jamal Adams, like hasn't really done much for the Seahawks, but when he was on the Jets, he was dominating. And you'll see that. You'll see that with Tyreek Hill. He'll have a fall off year this year, a comeback year the next year, but his numbers won't be as good as what they have been the past 3 or 4 years.
Oh yeah, I'm sure his numbers aren't going to be quite the same as they were. Obviously, the quarterback he's being thrown the ball to, and the offense and the way things have been extremely easier for the Chiefs. I will say this. Do I think Tyreek is going to be miss Mahomes more? Yes, I do. Do I think it's going to be as drastic as some people think it is? I don't think so. What I think honestly, I think the ability to replace a Tyreek Hill is definitely much harder than some people realize. Just not even the player that he is, but just the fact that you go into a Chiefs game and your immediate response is to change your style of defense specifically to not allow him to get beyond your secondary. That is the biggest problem. Now, do I think the Chiefs have a weapon that is going to install that fear into defenses in the vertical game now? No, I don't think so. Now, am I saying that the Chiefs are going to take a severe drop off because of Tyreek leaving? No. I mean, they're still going to be one of the top teams in the entire AFC, no question about it. But I do believe their offense will take a slight step back because of that lack of vertical threat, and with the speed with Tyreek, I think now you're going into a situation where you have a Jalen Waddle who in his rookie year was a great player, and he's looking to only improve because he got really comfortable at the end of the year. And also, I don't know if you noticed this, Chase, but I think they said of the 20th fastest runs in the NFL over the last span of the last 10 years. Do you know that there is one player that has a faster run on a play than Tyreek Hill? And that is his new teammate, Raheem Mostert, his running back. Their running back, Raheem, is actually had a couple faster runs on plays than Tyreek Hill has. So, I mean, this Dolphins team is built for speed. I mean, he fits right into this. I mean, Tyreek is just another compiled list of athletic players that this team is going to have. Ultimately, it's going to come down to like you said, Mike McDaniels and how he really changes this offense. Does it become a little bit more open for Tyreek Hill to get more things, kind of like what Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy have been able to do for this Chiefs offense? Everything's just fluid and it's all open. Now, do we see that same thing instead of a more pro style offense like what we kind of saw with Flores at times? Obviously, I think Tyreek's going to miss Mahomes a little more, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as some people think it is. All right, we'll move on here. And
I don't know. It's too difficult to think. So who knows? But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But we kind of also wanted to talk about some of the free agents. Let's talk about this real quick. You as a Browns fan, We'll each give our favorite free agent that our team has acquired over this offseason so far. Who is your favorite free agent that the Browns have signed this offseason?
Uh, although he didn't have production until the end of the season, like it was more towards the last like 6-7 games of the season where he started like coming to. But I think like picking Jadeveon back up, going opposite of Miles, even if it's just for one more year, was huge because looking at that defensive line, we did not have a guy that was like truly scary. Like Perrion Winfrey was a steal in the 4th round, and I think that he's gonna be a monster as a defensive tackle on the defensive line. But like we truly did not have that threat opposite of Miles to like scare some offenses and everything. And if Jadeveon can come back healthy and be productive like what he was the last few games of the season throughout the entire season, this will be a dynamic duo that's going to be making offensive scared and be a force to be reckoned with.
I get you. I get you. Yeah, your defensive line definitely is scary. It stinks because some of the biggest moves that the Colts have made this offseason have been by trade. So it's unfortunate. I can't say free agents per se, but Stefan Gilmore definitely was the favorite for me when it comes to free agents, because obviously we know Stefan Gilmore is not the same player that he was in 2019 when he won, when he was unanimous defensive player of the year that year. But at the end of the day, I mean, even last year in the 7 or so games that he played last season, was still one of the most effective cornerbacks at playing man-to-man coverage. So in this situation now, the Colts actually have, based off PFF's system, they have 2 of the top 4 most effective corners at playing man-to-man, and that's Isaiah Rodgers and Stefan Gilmore. So, I mean, Isaiah Rodgers is a lot less aggressive and a lot less hands-on than what Stefan Gilmore is, but Isaiah Rodgers runs a 4.28, so he's as fast as anyone out there on the field, so he can keep up with guys and recover. So that's why he does really well in man coverage. But, just adding a Stefan Gilmore, a guy who has been to a Super Bowl, a guy who has been into places that a lot of this Colts roster hasn't, and providing that leadership is so important. Cody and I have been talking about it on our other podcast on Bring the Juice about, what the Colts have been doing this offseason in regards to signing some of these free agents. And they've been signing guys who have championship pedigree, guys who have been there, done that. And it's also come into their coaching hires too, bringing in Reggie Wayne, Mike Mitchell in the secondary, Cato June and the linebackers. 2 of those 3 guys have been to multiple Super Bowls. So they know what it takes to win. They get what it takes to make it to the playoffs and not fall off that cliff. So that's kind of what Stefan Gilmore also provides. Even if Gilmore is not anywhere close to what we expected from before, if he can have a similar impact to like what Xavier Rhodes did in 2020 when he came over, people saying he's on the back end of his career, right? But, in 2020, Xavier Rhodes was one of the best zone corners in the NFL that year. I mean, if Stefan Gilmore does the same thing, having that knowledge that he has, I think it's going to work out great for Indianapolis.
So, Derek, outside of our teams, what free agent move did you like the most? And not including trades, not trades, just a free agent signing to a different team. I'll go first. My favorite that I liked was having Allen Robinson going to the Los Angeles Rams, because not only did that give another weapon opposite of Cooper Kupp, it gives them a backup plan, because I know that the Rams still want to go out and try to sign OBJ. Now, it's going to be on a cheap contract like what it was last year and everything, but he's not going to be available until almost mid-November. And like signing him to a big contract or like a 1-year contract worth $5 million is not going to be the right move to do with him. But it gives them that security blanket. It gives Stafford another weapon, and it just goes to show you that the Rams are wanting to do a repeat rather than trying to take a step backwards, and also signing like guys like Bobby helping out the team. But I think Allen Robinson is one of the most impactful free agents going to a new team and going to a team like the Rams.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Because it doesn't seem like they're going to be bringing back OBJ after the ACL thing that he had to deal with. And that's another free agent that we'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, Allen Robinson going to play with Matthew Stafford. I mean, talk about a great situation for him. Playing alongside, because Cooper Kupp's going to get the majority of the attention. Now you have Van Jefferson as well that's still there that makes big plays. Allen Robinson, it's like they just took their two and three receiver and just replaced them all over again with guys that might actually be better. So I mean, kudos to him. And I think a couple of guys that I would mention, Hassan Reddick going to Philly on that contract that he did. I mean, I have been a huge fan of Hassan Reddick. Okay. So Cody and I have been talking about defensive ends like all off season. And I was saying Chandler Jones or Hassan Reddick, you get me one of those two, I will be the happiest man on the face of the earth. Now, the Colts ended up getting Yannick Ngakoue. I'm extremely happy about that. I think Yannick Ngakoue is going to be very good for us. But I think Hassan Reddick, I mean, Philly showed just how much faith they have in Hassan Reddick. I mean, over the last 2 seasons, Hassan Reddick has had double-digit sack seasons. And, I mean, people are just not talking about him. He's only 27 years old. He's in his prime. And the last 2 seasons, his last season in Arizona had 12 sacks and then goes to Carolina for a year, has 11 sacks, and Carolina just didn't want to pay him. So he outperformed his contract. So, I mean, the Philly Eagles definitely know that Hassan Reddick's a big deal. And I think that defensive line for them is going to be scary. I think one other one that I potentially would have is Alex Kappa for Cincinnati. We all know the reason why, since he ended up losing in the end was, they couldn't stop the defensive line of the Rams, and Joe Burrow kept getting hit. And Alex was one of those premier guards in the NFL. And again, he's only 27, and he's going to be on that inside of that offensive line, and he's going to make sure that, that those interior troubles they have, he's not going to have those issues anymore. So Burrow's in good hands.
He is in great hands. And I think another one, if I had to pick one, it's between 2 guys. It's either between Brandon Sheriff going to the Jags because, help protecting Trevor Lawrence is a very big key piece. And Brandon Sheriff's one of the better guards in the league. Or I'd say the other one would have to be, I just had it in my head. I completely lost it. Anyway, we'll go with Brandon Sheriff for right now because the other guy that I had in my head, like he was a big impact to his team as well. And but yeah, just having the offensive line is one of the key components of Von Miller was the other one. Von Miller going to the Buffalo Bills, going to that defense who is already stacked, having Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer in the back end, not to mention Micah Hyde as well. Exactly. And then I was going to say, like, having Ed Oliver and a couple others on the defensive line, having that veteran presence in there with Von Miller and letting him teach some of these guys on the defensive line is going to be massively huge. Not to mention he brings experience. He still has some left in the tank. And I think that could be what pushes the Buffalo defense over the edge. Still think that they could use a great running back for their offense. But other than that, like, their defense got a lot better with Von Miller being there.
Oh, yeah. And I think another one as well is Miles Jack going to Pittsburgh. Just fits right in with that linebacker group. An athletic, great tackler that's only 26 years old. I mean, Miles Jack was, the waste of talent for him being in Jacksonville. He's going to be next to Devin Bush and going to be on that great Steelers defense. I mean, he's going to fit right in, and he's going to be spectacular for them.
Yeah,
all right, so let's kind of talk here about some of the free agents that are still left on the board. We mentioned a couple different guys. I mean, we can definitely talk about the wide receiver position first, just mainly since that's one of the big ones that everybody keeps talking about. We saw guys like, Julio Jones are still left. Will Fuller still out there. T.Y. Hilton. There's OBJ that's still recovering from his Achilles or his ACL. I'm sorry. There's a couple of good wide receivers here, Chase, that are still left on this market.
Yeah, and I'd say that if you're looking at one in particular, I'd say Will Fuller, not because of how good he is, it's because of his speed. In this day and the age in the NFL, speed is everything at the wide receiver position. Like, yes, if you're looking at a guy that could do it all, OBJ and Julio Jones are where it's at. But with the injury history of Julio and the injury history of OBJ, you do have some with Will Fuller. I get that. But with OBJ, you won't have him back until November. With Julio, he hasn't, been signed yet and I don't know how much he's been working this offseason. Will Fuller was on a team recently, so like he's got some experience, but speed matters in the NFL. And Will Fuller is going to be a guy that, people are going to be looking at that you could get for cheap and also can make a big impact on your team speed-wise because he'll blow the top off the defense to open up the short game for everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be very interesting. I know that it sucks that OBJ had that injury in the freaking Super Bowl, man. I mean, I guarantee he would have been on another team by now had that injury not been there.
He would have re-signed with the Rams. The Rams would not have gotten Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right in that regard. Yeah, they wouldn't have went out of their way to go get Allen Robinson when they could have gotten OBJ for about the same thing. I mean, some other offensive linemen that are still out here. Ryan Bates, guard from Buffalo. Nate Solder was the left tackle for the Giants for quite a few years. Dwayne Brown, the left tackle for Seattle. Now, I know he's 36 years old, but he's still a really good left tackle. I don't let the age fool you. He's still been a fringe top 10 left tackle in this league for many years, even despite his age. You got Eric Flowers there as well. And I know you mentioned Eric Fisher before we even started recording this. Let me just say this for anyone that I don't know. I'll give him this. He came off the injury. Okay. So he wasn't that great to start out. And he was also trying to block for Carson Wentz, who again holds onto the ball longer than a lot of quarterbacks do. Eric Fisher, if you're banking on him being your future left tackle, don't. That's all I'm saying. Just ask Cody. Just ask Cody what his feelings are about Eric Fisher now. Bro, he went from that being his man crush from last offseason to now being the one that he couldn't wait to get rid of.
Look, I'll tell you one thing. Like, it's tough to judge Eric Fisher because I think he came back way sooner than what he needed to. I think that he needed more time to recover from the injury, and I'm not blaming the injury on him being bad or like not putting up the production, but I think that is part of it. Like, I think that a lot of these players are in a rush to get to a new team, in a rush to try to start making some money again, so they push their health back and try to force it when it's not needed. Not to mention, like you said, he was blocking for Carson Wentz. He was blocking for Patrick Mahomes a year before that. And Mahomes gets the ball off like 2.4 seconds quicker than what Carson Wentz does. And it's a drastic difference. So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I obviously didn't see him, so I can't really judge and say whether or not I'm like what I'm saying is correct or incorrect. But all I'm saying is we got to give him the benefit of the doubt and see what he does this year and then go for a judge. But one guy that you did not mention that I'm shocked is still on the market, and he's only 31 years old. 31 for an offensive lineman is still a pretty decent age, and that is J.C. Tretter. J.C. Tretter, the center for the Browns, we released him because he was a cap hit, and the guy that we had waiting in the wings, he's packed on a lot of weight this year. He's worked on his craft. I think Nick Harris is going to step in and take over that role just fine. But for anybody that needs a center in this league, he is arguably a top 7, maybe top 6 center in the league at this moment in time, even for his age. And like, he was a big key reason why our offensive line was as good as what it was, is because of JC Tretter being that veteran presence on the offensive line. And anybody or any team that needs a center, they should go out and get him. And I don't know why he is still on the market.
All right, so I'll read off a couple different names here, and you let me know if you think that this guy will be signed to a roster by the end of July. All right. So Landon Collins.
No.
That's surprising, because for me, I was saying the other day, I thought the Colts could potentially do this because now that Kari Willis is retired, the Colts are now looking to fill a safety spot. And I think that adding a Landon Collins might actually be a good idea, especially since he's only 28 years old.
What else you got?
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the Bucs will go back and pick him up.
Yeah, 33 years old too. Jeez, it's hard to believe he's that old. Joe Hayden.
Yes, he'll be on a roster by the end of July.
Joe Schobert.
Maybe. I'm gonna go with the maybe on that one.
Only 28. I'm surprised. I thought
he
was
is,
older.
and he played phenomenally for the Browns, and I'm surprised we didn't give him a second contract. But
yeah,
I'll say a maybe on that one.
Eddie Goldman, defensive tackle for Chicago.
No.
I mean, I think he will. I honestly think he's going to. I think he's going to be one of the next guys that gets picked up. Ndamukong Suh.
Yes. I think that, he's been in talks with 5 different teams, 2 of them being the Browns and the Bucs. Like, they've been very, heavy talks with him and everything. It's just a matter of the amount of money that, they want to pay him and everything. But
y'all would be smart to get Suh. Yeah, to have him on the interior for that run defense, and then to have the guys on the outside for the pass. You guys are in great shape.
Yeah, no, that is one guy that we are heavily trying to pursue at this moment in time is Ndamukong Suh.
Dante Hightower.
I think yes. I think that he has to go to the right system, but I think that if he goes to the right system, he'll be productive, and I think that he'll be signed by the end of July.
Carlos Dunlap.
No, I think that he's already shown his cards in Cincy and in Seattle. And if neither of them want him, I don't think that he'll be on a roster by the end of July. Maybe mid-August, but I don't see end of July.
Last one here, Anthony Barr.
Yes.
Okay.
Linebacker is a desperate need for a position in the NFL, and people that have been successful at the position. And one of those is Anthony Barr. Part of the reason why he is a free agent is his contract's up. But not only that, they were hesitant on re-signing him because of an injury that he had. But he's also getting up there in age. But I think that he has still got a lot left in this tank. And I think that he's got a lot of play left. And there's a lot of teams that are looking for linebackers productive like him that could use him. I think that he might be on a roster by the end of July.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. It's been about an hour now that we've been talking about some NFL news. So, guys, listen, this first episode of this podcast together, we've been talking about wanting to do this for like months now. Thankfully, Chase and I are finally able to get an episode up where we're able to do this. Again, if you're coming over from the Bring the Juice Colts podcast that you guys know me from, thank you so much for tuning in. Let everybody else know to come over and give this a follow. And again, be sure to leave in the comments, guys, what you thought of this episode, what you think we should talk about next. We're always listening for advice and tips on, what to kind of talk about next. We want this to be more than just football at times. We want this to be a news story place for everything. But Chase, do you have anything else you'd like to say before we cancel the first episode?
I will leave it at this. Right now I am taking scouting classes online. called Sports Management Worldwide, and it is taught by a former NFL scout who is now currently a scout for the CFL, but he still is in contact with a lot of people, including Chris Ballard in the NFL. And he's got a lot of input on some of the players that we had talked about. And the reason why I said no to some of these guys, Derek, or why I gave the opinions that I have, is because he has told us in our classes what he has thought of these players and how good that they are, or how good they really are, and what people in the NFL are saying about them right now. So, I've got just a little bit more inside at the moment, just because with his contacts that he has. So, differing opinions could be, but I think that has a big factor in it.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Well, hey, we'll make sure to try to get Josh, and maybe we'll get Toby on here. Hopefully, Toby's schedule will line up to where we can actually have him on.
I do want to say this too.
Yeah.
I do want to say this. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to watching this podcast. We want to try to make this a TV series at some point in time. Get this out there to everybody that knows that we want to be on TV with the best of the best, like Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. We want to make sure that we
ruin Skip Bayless in the debate. I will ruin Skip.
We want to be like that, but we also want to be more news oriented as well, getting all of the information out there that you guys do not know. So please share this. Let everybody know. Let your moms, your uncles, your grandparents, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, everybody that you know, tune them into this and show them this video.
Absolutely, man. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, everyone. That's going to do it for this one, for the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. Hope you all have a great 4th of July weekend, and hope you enjoyed.